Hi, and welcome to Student Tasks, our professional development for October 11th. This summer, we embarked on a big project. We worked on creating authentic student tasks in all 4 core content areas. We worked with teams of writers in every grade level and with our coordinators and our coaches. We've taken some of that training and put it in today's presentation. However, this is an abridged version, but we really wanted those curriculum writers. We had a 3-day academy where we worked on the student tasks that we'll be sharing with you today. So what are we doing? Authentic student tasks. These aren't full lesson plans that we're writing. They're not worksheets, and they're not things off Teachers Pay Teachers. What we're really doing is digging into the type of activities that require deep thinking, where kids are showing us what they know. They can be really formal, or they can be really observational. And we have included some videos of tasks that teachers have submitted. So that's where we're going to start.
So what do you think made this tower stand up so well? No, what made it stand up? Why do you think it's standing up?
Just tied it around there and trying to make it stand up because it was almost standing up. So we made it more straight and it stand up. That's what I thought. And then we tried to so we did an idea and then we actually stand it up.
All right, everybody back up and put your hands behind your back. Leave your tower alone.
Because I'm here.
Okay. Let's start over. Do not touch the desks. Do not touch the desks. Back up. Put your hands behind your back. Okay. This tower is standing all by itself. It is holding the cotton ball. Let's see how tall it is. It is about 7.5 inches, okay? 7.5 inches.
Yes.
All right. This tower is standing all by itself. Let's see if it can hold the cotton ball. Okay. And let's see how tall this one is.
Is it the same size?
7 inches. Okay. This tower. Oh.
So you could see in that video that it wasn't just about the activity. It was also about the type of work and the type of questions that the teacher was asking. And they had a criteria to work towards on their tower, and they were using multiple skills. So that was just a beginning. We have some other examples as well. But why are we doing this work? We're going back to the learning platform, and you can see in the center of the learning platform, we have our standards, and you can see the 3 descriptives of the work our students should be doing. And it should be student-centered, so it should be challenging, authentic, experimental, and holistic. It should be cognitive, so reflective, constructivist, expressive, and developmental. And then it should be interactive, democratic, collaborative, and sociable. You can see that that work was collaborative. It was student-centered. It was challenging and experimental, and it was cognitive. You didn't see it in that video, but the kids were reflecting on their work about why why the good things worked and what things didn't work and what they'd do differently. So in our Planning for Learning protocol, one of the questions when we're planning a lesson is, what is the student task? What do students need to do in order to engage in the content, context, and cognitive rigor of the lesson standards? So that's really the question we wanted to answer with these tasks. So you can see this kind of blown up. What specific tasks will the students work through in the lesson? What do these tasks cause students, how do these tasks cause students to operate at the appropriate cognitive level? And what would an exemplar student task look like? The tasks we're sharing with you today are truly exemplars. They are samples. Hopefully some of them, you can take them out of one unit and lay them over content in another unit. So we have some examples in every grade level in all 4 content areas, but hopefully you'll be helping us add to those. So strategies and structures. That's one of the things that we really stressed in our 3-day curriculum writing. We really looked at, are we using our Making Thinking Visible strategies? Are we using Kagan cooperative structures? What pieces are we using to help kids know what it is we want them to do? And what pieces can we put in place to simplify some of the grouping structures, some of the decisions on how kids are going to let us know that they know what they know. We included Marzano's strategies for vocabulary. And so all of those pieces are in the strategies and structures box in Forethought. We also looked at the learning expectation rubric, and this was kind of the lens that we kind of judged our tasks. One of the important things about this work is not every task has to be a new task. We can look at some of the tasks we have used in the past and build them up in an area where they're low, or just tweak how the students are doing their work so that it's more student-centered and less teacher-centered. So student engagement is one of the main reasons that we want to have quality student tasks. When students are engaged, their learning goes up, their behavior is better, and they remember more of what they've learned. So we really wanted to think about what makes learning engaging. So keep in mind, think about when you go to professional development. What makes one training better than others? Is it movement? Sometimes as adults, we don't particularly like to move. I know I hate having to move my stuff. But sometimes getting up and talking to people that I don't normally talk to really does engage my brain in a different way. So think about the things that make learning meaningful for you. Here's a picture example of a student task for math. These are some kids who are having a decimal race, and they have their product is this chart, but they did lots of work to get there, and they worked collaboratively. The next piece that was really important for us was the new Birdville Portrait of a Graduate. We're going to spend a little time talking about that today. The Portrait of a Graduate was worked on by community members, educators, students, administrators, business leaders in the community. We really wanted to have on paper what we want a Birdville graduate to be when they walk across that stage at the end of their career. College ready, workplace ready, future ready. And we're going to break down the 4 descriptors just a little bit. So first is an empowered learner. I'm not going to read the slide to you, but we just want kids to be as they get older, become more and more in charge of their own learning, and to be able to follow their interests and passions, and to be able to take what they learn in one grade or one class and apply it in another. Next, responsible citizen. As the social studies coordinator, this one is near and dear to my heart. But we really want to give kids the opportunity from pre-K on to learn about being responsible and being a good leader, working towards goals, being reflective, and really having all the characteristics that go in our social studies description of being a good citizen. Next, a global competitor. A global competitor demonstrates knowledge of and empathy for issues across the world. They value diversity, and they show competence in all sorts of different skills. Next, we have an innovative entrepreneur, problem solvers, and we know we all want our students to be problem solvers. When I taught second grade, my key answer to my students, when they came to me with a lot of little bitty issues, like I broke my pencil, my answer to them would be, how can you be a problem solver? And kind of putting the ball back into their court. And that's really all this is. So in just a minute, stop the video, and with your team, I'd like you to talk about, what does this look like in your grade level? I know that graduation seems really far away from elementary school, but what do we do in kindergarten or third grade or fifth grade that builds an empowered learner? What does a responsible citizen look like in second grade or fourth grade? And just talk through that. After, there's going to be a discussion place in Canvas. Just click on Portrait of a Graduate Discussion, and one person from your team or each of you can reply either way. So welcome back. We're going to watch some more kiddos reflect on their learning.
So Hayden, y'all tell me, what was your plan at the very beginning? What were you trying to do?
We got the toothpick, and this would hold it, and the tape would wrap it around it.
Okay, so now what are you starting to think would have been better? What would have been better? The pipe cleaners instead of your toothpicks? Oh, okay. Well, hang on just a second. All right, second grade, give me 5.
So you can see that those same students in the tower building activity reflected on what worked and what didn't. The next piece of our tasks are the Tier 1 priorities, and I know that you've heard a great deal about them. But when we were doing our work, we wanted all of the tasks to improve instruction using at least one priority. So I am just going to put the 4 content areas up on the screen for just a moment. We have math, social studies, science, and English language arts. Here's another quick video.
So while this lesson's going on, I can quickly walk around and look to see what number is on the table, and the children identified what the number was and then were to write on their post-it note their name and then what their number was and draw some sort of representation of that set, and then use the manipulatives on the table to cover the table with that number of objects. So sets of 2 for this table. So really quickly I can go by and see my friends who are having a hard time. This sweet friend had a hard time writing his name and the number, and started to count, but quickly I could hear, just in watching an observation, that he was having a hard time discerning that was 2. Other friends were doing a great job, and I see sets of 2 very clearly on the table, and that sort of thing. So this is a great observation tool that I can really quickly scan the room as they're working and figure out who's got it and who needs some extra intervention time with me.
So you can see that this task isn't complicated, and it's something probably very similar to what you're using in your classroom. But this was a very concrete way to find out if these kindergartners could identify those numbers. Another goal of our tasks is to raise cognitive rigor. Sometimes rigor is thought of as being more. And we're not necessarily looking for more. What we're looking for is the level of thinking. I chose this picture because it's a non-linguistic representation of cognitive rigor. And creating a non-linguistic, or not using words, representation of vocabulary is one of Marzano's 6 steps. But we really want to have kids thinking. And so your kids, whether they are struggling with a concept or whether the concept comes easy to them, that they are engaged in the task and are challenged. The other key piece is relevance. We want students to feel like their work matters. And we want to make sure that we're giving them things to do that are meaningful and really help them in their learning. Next, we're going to look at a video of some 5th graders who are making connections between their own lives and the lives of the colonists, as well as doing some comparison as to why one colony might be a better place to live than another.
We like the Virginia colony because we have rich soil, and also we have a lot of trees at our house. Many of our family members live far away, and when people came into America from Spain and England, they probably had to leave their family, some of their family behind, so that they could come back and tell them, oh, it's working well and you can come over, or it's not doing very well and you have to stay.
Most of my family lives in Tennessee because my grandpa came to Texas for work, and like the English settlers, they moved and left their family behind.
All the people were like going to America because if they didn't go to America, then soon their land would be too many people, so they needed to have more people, and we moved because my mom had a lot of kids, so we had to get a bigger house.
My family moved because of my dad's job, and the English moved to make a new colony.
Yeah, for what?
For their Catholic freedom.
Yeah.
So you can see, even with that last student, the teacher was drilling down, asking them the questions and clarifying their thinking. When he said Catholic freedom, that wasn't exactly right, but he understands. They were looking for religious freedom. And the teacher went on to help him get to that answer. But you can see the kids were writing, they were excited, they had connected colonial America to their own lives, which made it more relevant to them. So here are some slides about rigor and relevance. So what we're really hoping for is that we are doing more in quadrant D and less in quadrant A. Now, I will say that you have to have a little quadrant A in a school day. But I like to think of it as like that this is your plate. And quadrant D is your protein. You need to have a lot of protein. And quadrant A, where they're naming, labeling, defining, identifying, that's your salt and fat. You have to have some salt and fat in your diet. But when you get too much salt and fat in your diet, it's not healthy. And so we just need to limit that salt and fat of quadrant A. So here's another representation of the rigor and relevance chart. Now, as the amount of knowledge increases, the rigor goes up, and as we apply our work in a more relevant way, the relevance goes up. So here's our next slide. It's kind of looking at rigor. You know, that we want kids to be analyzing and evaluating, synthesizing, and creating. And we do know that sometimes kids need to recall some knowledge. They need some automaticity. Sight words are super important in the lower grades. And that is recall. It's memorizing those sight words. But that's on the path to becoming a better reader and not having to decode everything. But that's not where we want to live, in that kind of flashcard kind of memorization. So rigor means framing lessons at the high end of the knowledge taxonomy. And a lesson with rigor asks students to do these kinds of things. And relevance is the purpose of the learning. We want them to acquire the knowledge and apply it. We want it to be interdisciplinary. What kids learn in language arts should help them in social studies. What they learn in math should help them acquire science knowledge, and vice versa. Here is one more video. So next, I want to show you the template that we have been using for writing student tasks. Let me scoot the frame over just a little bit. So this is just a template we're using. We put in the standards. What should students know? That comes right off the clarifier. What should students be able to do? Again, right off the clarifier. An assessment item, an essential question, the title of the task, and then the procedure. So how are you going to group the kids if they're grouped? What strategies and structures might be using? Are you doing a formative assessment? And then how are you going to evaluate whether or not the students can do and know what they're supposed to do and know? It could be as simple as that kindergarten teacher looking at the sticky notes, and either they knew the number or they didn't. It may not need a rubric. evaluation tool, teacher observing the sticky notes. So then next is task resources. So is there anything that you're going to need? Do you need to be on MAPS 101 if it's social studies? Do you need books out of Reading A to Z? What if your teammates were to do this lesson, what would they need? And then differentiated instruction. We want to be especially mindful of our special ed, our ELL, and our 504 students to make sure that we have included in the task the things that they're going to need to be successful. So next, we have a glossary on the template just if you need a refresher on any of the terms, and then some questions that can help you tweak your task. What's the level of thinking? How do students show and reflect their thinking? And so you can kind of go through and use these questions to evaluate your task. We also have the description of the portrait of a graduate. So you can kind of look at your task and see, is my task building towards one or more of the descriptors of the portrait of a graduate? And then we have a reflection page. Different teams did different things with the reflection. I know one team highlighted the questions that they felt like their task answered well. Some teams just did this orally, but it's just a tool to help you reflect on a task. Oops, sorry about that. My scroll went really excited there. So on these reflection pages, one of the powerful ways I think you could use this is to take a student activity that you already use and then use this reflection to tweak it and improve it and turn it into an authentic student task. And I bet a lot of what you use is already there. It just might need to be flipped around a little bit so the students are a little more reflective. So we have reflection questions about rigor, relevance, and engagement, and also about the portrait of a graduate. So the link to the template is also in Canvas. It's a Google Doc, so you can make a copy of it so that you can have a blank one to use. So our last piece is you are off to write curriculum, but specifically you're off to write student tasks. That's why we wanted you to be with your team for this part of the learning so that you could work collaboratively. It could be, if you're a departmentalized grade level, that you're working on different tasks, but maybe you're going to use some of the same strategies just with different content. Or maybe you're all going to work together on one task. There's going to be a place in Canvas for you to upload a student task. You can each upload one, or you can upload one as a team. Whatever is your preference. We're excited to see what you build so that we can share it with other teachers and add it to the student tasks. We hope you have a great day. We're all available by email today if you have any content questions. Several of the coaches are around, and there are people on your campus who were part of our curriculum writing team this summer, and I'm sure they'd be glad to help you. We're excited to see what you're building, and we're so glad that we get to roll these student tasks out. Have a great day learning, and if you need us, shoot us an email or give us a call. Thanks.